Welcome to the second Global Impact Virtual Conference hosted by ISTE and ASCD community leaders. I am Martin Swall, one of the ISTE and ASCD community leaders and a member of the global team. We have an incredible lineup of speakers today, and this session's presenter is one of them. This session is in English. If you need to turn on the captions, please do so by following the directions using the link in the chat. It's my pleasure to introduce Jody Britten, the Head of Research and Innovation at Team for Tech. She brings over 2 decades of expertise in education technology. Jody leads AI for Education project with Fab Incorporated and is a member of the HP Future Council on EdTech for Teachers, contributing to various AI advisory councils. Her mission is to empower learners and educators through technology. Jody, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. You guys have had such a great morning and afternoon and such a great lineup. So thanks for having me. And I love to see all the people saying hello. Hello, Greta. It's good to see you. I'm Jody Britten. I'm the Head of Research and Innovation for the Team for Tech Foundation. I'm excited to share what we've been working on today. Real quick, in the chat, you'll be able to see the bit.ly that will provide our slides for today. They're up on the screen too, bit.ly/Global Impact AI, and you'll be able to learn more. All right, so let's get started really quick and jump right in. I want you to know first who Team for Tech is. We are a nonprofit impact accelerator specifically focused on education organizations, and we're very committed to working on advancing education for high quality employability. We have 4 components of our Impact Accelerator program, and they span 100 countries throughout the world. We have a wonderful concentration in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, as well as the United States and Canada. One of the components of our Impact Accelerator is our community of practice. And that community of practice is free for educators, leaders, and NGOs or nonprofit organizations, several of which were mentioned today. Just presented last week in Chicago with the Lego Play for Good team. So it was fun to hear from them again today. The community of practice is a very dynamic space. We share a lot of information on teacher effectiveness, learner growth, and we also have a variety of courses, including our Introduction to AI course, makerspaces, design thinking, and other things. All of those are freely available and come with a certificate of completion for a knowledge level and understanding. Part of what we're doing in the community of practice right now is really focusing on our DISC framework, which is digital innovation, social, emotional, and cognitive skills that really help to advance the preparation and capacity of our learners to be, employer ready or work ready. But we are doing these toolkits. When printed out, they are like a mini book. They're about 350 pages. But what we've done is chunk them apart very easily in our community of practice. So I'm going to leave the URLs in this deck, which you can grab at that URL that we already shared. Those toolkits really help us build kind of a framework for thinking about how to advance skills globally, not just in the United States, not just in Canada, but in Rwanda, in Uganda, in Kenya, in Guatemala, really everywhere. As we've been working on this kind of new layer of our work and employability, we've really been thinking a lot about the impact of AI. And I was reading this book the other day, it's AI Superpowers, and it really talks about China, Silicon Valley, and others. And this quote stuck with me. The readiness for the future is not just about employability skills or the experiences and knowledge that we're able to help our students create. But our kids are already thinking about what this means in terms of AI. In this book, the author talks about visiting with Chinese kindergarten students, and they're already asking questions. Are we going to have AI teachers? Is one of them. Are we going to have robot teachers? Is another. What kind of jobs are we going to have? And how am I going to use AI every day? Our kids are already thinking about these things. And that's one of the reasons that we've kind of gotten into this work with AI and AI for Education.org. Part of the reason that we're doing this is because we know that right now no one is an expert in AI for education, and AI isn't perfect. But we have to continue to think about what this work means, how we can help support our teachers, and how that support for teachers is going to drill down to really making an impact for our students. When we're thinking about this work at Team Protect, we're very glad to partner with AIforeducation.org. It's AI-for-education.org. This is a primarily Gates Foundation funded initiative. This initiative is very much focused on ensuring that every child has access to the benefits of AI, specifically generative AI, and that those tools and resources that they're accessing are not only evidence-based and technically sound, but equitable, affordable, and free of bias. We're really working hard on this with our partners at Fab Inc., their team in London, and we're very excited that in the next 4 months, we're going to launch a series of 18 different AI literacy trainings. There's a URL up there on the slide. That's where you can just access more information. We're scheduling those right now. You can do asynchronous or synchronous. Everything will come with a certificate of completion if you pass that knowledge assessment. But really what this training is all about is making sure that we're adding that quality lens onto the work that we're doing with teachers and leaders to ensure that everything that we're pushing out has that layer of evidence. That's going to be fun. So try and take advantage of that if you can. I want to highlight just a few things that the initiative is doing right now. This work has been going on for about 18 months, and we've been in high speed mode to figure out quite a few different things. On the website, the AIforeducation.org, you're going to be able to see AI products. This AI products list is actually a landscape and kind of continually growing database of all of the AI products and where they're being built. Through that link, you can really look and see what is being built in Africa, what's being built in Southeast Asia, and really get a handle on what kind of products are out there. You'll be able to sort through and see which things are kind of rising to the top for you. The other thing I want to highlight is the evidence library. The evidence library is where we're curating evidence, not just about Gen AI in general, but about Gen AI in education. These are all vetted resources. We make sure that we go through and run some quality checks on those. We really want to be sure that when we do that work, we're really sharing out kind of the best and most quality. Some of it will say that Gen AI is not good. Some of it will. Some of it will say things that we need to think about a little bit more. But that AI evidence library is really focused on helping educators and developers push things forward. There's another thing that I'm really excited to share with you guys today. And I told Kayla this morning, she gets a new toy to play with. So this is one of them. This is our benchmarking and quality assurance component of our work. This part of our work, we're actually running tests on the content that generative AI solutions produce in terms of pedagogy and content. We have a new one coming out that will just focus on disabilities and accessibility. But in this pedagogy benchmark, it's really hard. Like Gen AI tools can spit out content all the time. Sometimes it's not great knowledge, it's not accurate, but more often than not, it's not pedagogically sound. So we see AI generating a lot of low-level tasks, things like that. So when we run that pedagogy benchmark test on it, you can see which of the models I think we're up to maybe 70, models that we're testing right now. But if you click on that, you can actually see what model it was, what the accuracy was, and what's the cost per token. So you can see a little bit more. This is just, I can't say enough. Like if you're working on lesson plans, if you're working on producing content, try and go back to this benchmarking and use the model that's most aligned to your task. It's going to help long-term make sure that things are very much aligned. We're going to hope that I didn't lose my slide deck, and we're going to keep going. One of the things I wanted to highlight for you today was some of the lessons that we learned in a recent randomized control trial that we did in Sierra Leone with our teacher AI chatbot. One of the things that we're doing at the initiative is we are really focused on this R&D effort, really making sure that we're digging in and seeing more about the research and development efforts that are happening. We're working with specific partners. Some of them are doing amazing things, like trying to build an offline LLM with a Raspberry Pi, doing voice reading assessments in Swahili. There's so much going on. This one specifically is really focused on a WhatsApp-enabled chatbot called the Teacher AI. And as many of you guys probably know, WhatsApp has their own chat interface that's AI configured. The Teacher AI is a little bit different. This is what it is. It's powered by GPT 3.5 Turbo. It's delivered using the WhatsApp interface, and it's trained to answer questions about content and improving teaching. That means that our team has gone through and fine-tuned the model, trained, retrained, and retrained until we got quality outputs. What we're doing with all this is really developing educational resources through WhatsApp interface for some of our communities that are, really hard hit. They don't have expertise. They don't have a lot of teachers. A lot of the communities that we work with don't even have schools. These are the tools that are helping them figure out how they can advance learner-centered outcomes more quickly by leveraging AI. When we're thinking about all this, we're troubleshooting teaching and learning and challenges, this interface really makes it possible for those teachers to then and get just-in-time, real-time support that's vetted and quality assured. One of the things that we're doing right now, as an aside to the Sierra Leone case, is we're creating a data set just around educational content specific to low moderate income countries. That data set is very carefully curated to include educational content and materials that can be used globally. That data set will then be given to LLMs to integrate into their training models. This work that I'm going to tell you about right now is just step one into making sure that that happens, trying to see what's out there, okay? So about a year ago, the team in London really did a great job of facilitating a pilot group in Sierra Leone. Really, in Sierra Leone, about 60% of the teachers are not on government payroll. If we think about that, they're not on payroll. A lot of them are volunteers. They don't have a lot of opportunity for training. They don't even have schools they can go to try and figure out what to do next. In a very remote area, they necessitate a different level of support. So what we're thinking about in this is how could we use that Teacher AI chatbot in WhatsApp to provide just-in-time, real-time support? So what we did is we worked with 166 teachers across 45 schools to really think about what's the optimal level of support that those teachers need in using this tool in order to get to the point where they can advance outcomes. So we really think about this work in terms of we have to overcome isolation in order to get to inclusion and quality education. When we think about that, things that we knew, 69% of the teachers that were participating already used WhatsApp. They could use it, they could access it, the data was taken care of. It started off solid. Okay, we know that they could do that. But when we're thinking about the chatbot in a very specific case, we worked with the Port Loco School District, which is a very, they have both urban and rural. It's kind of a combination. About half the teachers had never even heard of AI before. So we had great WhatsApp use, but not a lot of understanding on AI. So as we were going through this, we really wanted to figure out what kind of training is going to help the most. So we split the teachers into 4 groups. One of those, all of them had access to prompt training and teaching strategies, specifically with that chatbot. What kind of prompts should you use? What kind of teaching strategies are you going to look for? All those kind of things. The next group really looked at using the chatbot with a purely foundational literacy and numeracy lens, really focusing in on that core skill. So when we think about that group, the first and the fourth group didn't really have that hardcore focus on math, Then the next one, really ongoing lesson observations and coaching. So we went from prompt training, just general, to really specific, how can I use this to advance numeracy and literacy specifically, all the way to ongoing lesson and observations. When we're thinking about that coaching piece, one of the things that we know for sure is that when people come into our community of practice, we've trained, I think, over about 400 organizations right now in just using ChatGPT from more of an edu efficiency standpoint. We're not yet to the point where we can help people really hold on to that foundational numeracy and literacy piece and dig deep with it. We're getting there. But in the training that we've done so far, one of the things that we found is that if we skip that really basic foundational element of this has to be addressed, otherwise we're going to come back to it, the questions that have to be addressed during that foundational training stage are just basic trust building things with educators. What is AI? What is generative AI? What is machine learning? What is deep learning? All those things come up the second you get into these trainings. So what we've been doing is we've been starting with that introduction piece, that really foundational. We're going to give you the language and the tools to understand what this is before we go deeper. What we found in Sierra Leone, as you can see on the screen here, is that when we really had that coaching piece and that kind of ongoing lesson and observations piece, where we could talk through the impact and implementation of this, that's when we saw a difference. That's when we saw usage go up. That's when we saw their prompts get better. That's when we saw them interacting more, okay? About 38% of group 4 that just had the prompt training never came back to that application. They weren't tied in enough. About 30% of teacher queries were really related to specific school subjects. And about 10% were focused on lesson planning. So you can kind of see where the variance was here. 30% were just talking about math. We're just talking about reading. We're just talking about something that they had to teach that day. But only 10% were really getting in to the conversation about lesson planning, okay? That shorter, more frequent training and interaction with more of an AI expert is what mattered. Because of this, some of our work at Team for Tech right now, we're running a generative AI cohort specific to Africa. We have 10 different countries and 10 different organizations participating. And in that, we actually have not only paid for the opportunity, we're not only paying for licenses for them to use ChatGPT among other tools, but we're also providing a 3-year-long coach to really help them dig in and think through how are they using these tools and what are the outcomes that they're trying to achieve. As we're thinking about all of this work that we did in Sierra Leone and the work that we're continuing to do, our team is really focused on what's next, not what's now. But if we're going to be effective in helping teachers, we have to stay in that space of bridging the gap between what's happening right now and what's happening next. Things like, helping teachers understand when they were using the teacher AI chatbot, it was closed. If you asked it what to make for dinner, it will tell you it doesn't know because it's not trained to do that. It could help you create a lesson plan on making dinner, but it wouldn't be able to go outside of the parameters of educational content and quality to really go further. We know that. We learned that through this. The teacher AI was really focused on making sure that we captured those experiences from teachers. We looked at all the prompts that they were using, everything that they were asking it. We also were able to identify that we have a very limited scope in terms of math-related questions, which is a downfall for several AI systems. There are a couple groups that are really advancing that math work very quickly, but it's just something that we need to be cognizant of. We just released a new paper on the initiative website, really talking about that math component, because especially in pre-primary or primary grades, it's really hard. It's really hard because we use more pictures and objects, and AI doesn't do well with that yet. So when we're thinking about how we can scale this, how we can take this big idea. And Bill Gates has said before, he wants to half the time that it takes to get these tools into the hands of the kids and teachers that need it most. If we're going to do that, then we have to figure out how to use the tools and resources that are accessible and sustainable in that environment. So the WhatsApp choice was a really good start. The training the training of the model worked really, really well. But if you don't ask it the right question, you're going to get incorrect answers. If you try and do things out of context and not tell it, there was kind of a pre and a post revelation for us, I think. One, when we're thinking about, training these, sometimes we want to go deep and say, I am a teacher in rural Kenya. These are the students that I'm teaching. These are the students that I'm working with. This is the content that I want to teach. But what our teachers in Sierra Leone found out is that the more they trained it and gave it specific, the less it worked through some brainstorming with them. So when we think about like what we're going to do next, how are we going to look for this? We work with over 1,000 organizations working in education across 100 countries. Today, we know that funding, access to energy, access to power supply, access to internet, those are all huge things that we have to address. When we're looking at these studies, even the one in Sierra Leone, we need to be able to accommodate for that factor. If we're doing a study and we're going in, we're looking at how a training is done, and it's only in a situation where there's never any blips and everything goes well, we're probably going to get good data, but we're not going to get really authentic data. I think one of the things that we also learned is that from a developer standpoint, we really need to ask hard questions, not only about teacher privacy, but also student privacy, and how we're making sure that our students' information, their work, their creations aren't being used to train models. But then in addition to that, we really have to think through how we're segmenting the primary through secondary and higher education. At Team Protect and our materials that we create, we use the ISTE age bands that are in the standards materials as a way to chunk content and align strategies. And we'd love to see more of that happen. We have to think about this teacher training as a continuum. We can't just jump in and say, hey, this is what we're going to do with ChatGPT today. We really want to make sure that we're thinking through that component and have it be ongoing. First, it's a conversation, then it's a demo, then it's small groups working together. We have to think about this as a continuum, not a Band-Aid. And we have to really start with what's working. If we think about just things like, WhatsApp, that was a huge win. So many of the teachers were already using that tool. So why not use it in this case as well? And we really have to think about wraparound training and supports like we're doing in the Team Protect community of practice. In our toolkits right now, there's probably 50 or 60 resources in addition to the content for all the employability skills. In this AI training that we're going to release, this new 18 training series that I spoke of earlier, that's really going to get those resources and tip sheets into the hands of the educators and give them a place where they can consistently go back and learn more. We have to think about this not in terms of train the trainers, because that's really hard to keep up and it doesn't always work for really under-resourced context. We have to think about it in terms of curated spaces and libraries with just-in-time support where people can talk to each other. It is one of my favorite things to do, and Kayla and others know this. I like to bring people together to think about things and learn from each other. If we're just pushing out content, it's not going to be for everybody. If we're pushing out content and giving people the opportunity to talk about it and think about it and connect about it, that's when we're able to make sense of the mess. And things in education are messy. They're always very messy. But if we give people the time and the space, that's when great things happen. And that's what we're doing with the community of practice for the initiative. Again, The URL for the initiative, the AI work in specific, is aiforeducation.org. The Teacher AI app, that will take you to the information about the WhatsApp app that we tested in Sierra Leone, and the community URL is there as well. The community is free. It is a public good space. All of that will be in the slide deck. You'll be able to capture it. Kayla, I'm ending a couple minutes early, and I don't know if we want to take some time to ask questions or talk a little bit more. Let me look in the comments here if there's anything that we need to cover. Yes. One quick thing on all of this. The work that we're doing with AI literacy goes a little bit deeper and wider, in just thinking about how this stuff is scaled. We really have to consider not only, what does it mean to be AI literate, but then what does it mean to actually take that knowledge and produce it? One of the things that we're doing with that 18-piece training that we're rolling out later this month and early next month is we're tying it to the UNESCO teacher competencies for AI. We're also kind of queuing that up so it sets teachers up. If we think about what we did with the ISTE standards, right? You have the ISTE standards for educators, but the educators have to be able to address the questions of students and implement those things in place. So we're kind of thinking about that in the same way with the AI literacy competencies for both students and teachers that UNESCO has produced. How can we start the conversation with teacher development and organizational development, and then create a pathway for student use? It's a waterfall. We have to address the system, we have to address the teacher needs, and then we can finally make sure that the student outcomes are being achieved. I'll stop there and breathe. I don't see any questions coming in right now. Maybe there are.
Hello, Jody. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing with us this lovely experiment. So what do you think, what is the key parameters or key information that we need to train those models with?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, even when we're doing an investigation and testing into some of the models, we're seeing too much American content, and we know that we have that, the stronghold on content in the States, but we have to be very specific and intentional about creating those data and those training sets for the LLMs that are outside of the US. We just have to get better at it. And I don't know that we've done it. Just in the work that we're doing and curating content right now and making that data set so that we can train those LLMs, it is hard work. It is hard to go through and identify what is quality content, what is unbiased content. And I think about one of the things, one of my mentors a long time ago owned a publishing company in New York. And her first job in a publishing company, she sat in the basement in this old building in New York, and she went through every textbook and she checked to make sure that there were both boys and girls, there were different races, there were different ethnicities, there were different neighborhoods. And I'm seeing the exact same thing happen again now, where we have to be sure that we're being intentional about what's in that data set. It's very specific training, but if we can get it right, we're hoping that we'll have kind of a framework that other people can use and learn from in creating that data, and kind of creating that training data. But that's the biggest thing, is you're running uphill because you have all this data that's pushing down and you need to be able to push up.
So do you think that is going to be like a localized, so need to be different models for different regions of the world?
One of the things that we're looking at right now, and I did this in my previous work as well, is really think about how those, if we think about just the curriculum and the standards. If we look at Kenya and we look at Uganda and we look at the UK and we look at the US and we look at Guatemala and Brazil, like as we look across all those models, there is continuity there. There is connection there. So it's kind of basing the idea of how can we identify what those commonalities are and then make sure that those commonalities are inclusive of the components that we need in order to be sure that that data set is accurate. So there's, it's not that we need a new model for every location, but we need models that look at that straight through arrow where there's that connection and cohesion instead of just thinking one model is for everybody. Any other questions that came up?
So what do you think is a key component in building trust with teachers in using AI?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's helping them understand the bones that all these tools are built on, that, understanding what generative AI is compared to other branches of AI, understand how they're already using AI every day. I met with somebody at a ministry of education not long ago, and they said, well, we just need to block it all. And then we started talking about how they're already using AI every day. And they realized very quickly that they couldn't, but part of it is just breaking down this huge, kind of scary concept into really easy to understand things. And I think what I'm seeing with all the people that we're training, the more that we help them understand the nuts and bolts and how these things are built, the more capable they are in advocating for themselves and their students in terms of bias, ethical considerations, and the like. If we don't give time and space for those conversations to happen, then we're kind of seeing a plateau of interest and use. But if we give that time and space, then those teachers are really learning the skills they need to advocate and explore and kind of extend their work in some pretty cool ways.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Also, Thank you for joining us today and sharing your expertise. It was really insightful.
Yep.
And I hope, certainly I learned a lot from you. Thank you very much.
There's a lot there. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. This year, we wanted to adapt practical ways for educators to implement a global impact in their classrooms. We asked people to record quick videos with tips for doing just that. Now, let's learn how to get started implementing global impact from Ella Ben-Or to learn about Innovators Compass.
Hi, I'm Ella Ben-Or, and this is Getting Started with Innovators Compass, 5 powerful questions for big challenges and all the little ones along the way. Used, as we'll see, from kindergarten through college up through global organizations. First, a quick backstory. For 30 years, I've been part of big, even global projects as a student at MIT, designer at the innovation firm IDEO, educator at Olin College, and coach for students of all ages, educators, and organizations. I've seen that no matter who's tackling those big challenges, they've got to manage tasks and time, lead, learn, communicate, collaborate, lots of different smaller connected challenges along the way. But luckily, I've also worked with lots of maps for those different big and small challenges and found that they're connected too. Just like maps of different places have the same compass in the corner. I went on a decade-long mission distilling this compass till we could unleash it for people to use and share in any challenge, experimenting from preschool peace tables to global conferences like this one about the disease HIV/AIDS. Okay, time to teach, unleash this compass, even for a minute, right now. So pick something that's on your mind today or you need to do, even planning dinner. Now, in your head, or you can jot this down, explore at least 2 different possibilities for people. Who's involved in this? Okay, now dive down to explore a couple of details or different sides of what's happening and why. If it's about someone else, maybe pop a question mark on it. With those observations to go on, zoom out to the big picture and explore what matters most, a couple of guiding stars or principles for whatever you do here. Now, look for the big picture of what ways are there to do those things that matter most. Different, even blue sky dreamy or still fuzzy ideas. And then come back down to details to explore what's a step to try, a specific experiment, asking a question or trying an idea in a small way that's okay if it doesn't work at first. When you do, you'll see what happens for everyone involved. Maybe something else matters or is a better idea to try. This is our Innovator's Compass, 5 powerful questions that move us forward in any challenge. It's a compass, not a map. People and processes use these questions fast or slow, following the numbers, or bouncing around, and so can you. Of course, all those big maps have lots more instructions, but essentially they say, ask these 5 powerful questions more, using the cues on the compass, and as we do, explore new possibilities, literally playing with more punctuation marks. Within 4, everyone involved, and more of our human tools. Now, I hope you're thinking, wait, my students have plenty of questions, observations, ideas, and experiments. They've got punctuation marks and all those human tools. So unleash students' compass on challenges right here, right now. Don't wait for a big project, just start. You can start using these in conversation, like we just did. Or make a compass. All of these are playground conflicts unstuck at different ages, in words or pictures, teacher-led or student-led, from upstate New York to Aurora, Colorado to Calgary, Canada. That's no surprise, right? Playgrounds might involve kids, but model plenty of world challenges. And teachers would love not to be involved. Here's a Boston classroom compassing their conflicts with a mix of their human tools. On stickies, they shared observations about what's happening on the playground. Upsides, talking, playing, tag, and downsides. People block the slide. They always play tag. Are they trying to exclude me? The teacher scribed for what matters most. Principles like having free choice to talk, play, have fun, run, and competing ones. Everyone feels safe, included, and listen. Then they drew out ways to do those things. Ideas like new games, rules, roles, props, and signs. Then they tried some experiments, like this no blocking the slide sign. Learned from what happened and made adjustments. Adding a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Of course, we hope kids will care about challenges beyond the human world. Here's a California classroom saving caterpillars getting crushed on the street in front of their school. They didn't bother to write down their experiments, they just started trying. Now, unfortunately, sometimes global problems come to you. After the Miami teacher's school was hit by Hurricane Irma, she let kids compass individually and together to explore their experiences of what happened and what mattered most to them about it, and ways to help their families and community move forward. But they also went global with Innovator's Compass since, yes, it's also a powerful scaffold for bigger projects at any level, right from the start, picking topics.
In our project with the global goals, we all shared our observations, the things that mattered to us, the ideas and the experiments we were willing to try, and derived a class project with the resources available to us.
And then to scaffold project work. Break Free Education brings global impact projects to the restricted environments of juvenile justice facilities and makes their incredible 5-session standards-aligned lesson plans and slides available online to all. Break Free Education uses Innovator's Compass, in their words, to help students understand the design thinking process, but in an easy-to-use way that keeps people at the center. This year's theme was Reviving Ocean Life. In their slides, Break Free provides rich material for students to collect observations of the effects of climate change on the ocean and principles for having impact, from photos to quantitative data to videos of scientific explanations and first-hand accounts. They also teach a range of design thinking methods that get students using those 10+ human tools like empathy maps and drawing crazy eights as they explore the observations, design principles, ideas, and experiments that they express in a compass to visually bring their understanding and thinking together. For their chosen experiment, teams built cardboard prototypes with their limited materials and unlimited creativity. Oceanographer Diane Molly offered her observations and evaluation of their experiments based on the team's stated principles and their understanding of the environmental impact principles in the slides. This winning student team built a boat that collects ocean trash as it moves. Now, for a full semester design curriculum around Innovators Compass, there's my own course, Engineering for Humanity, that I co-teach with anthropologist Catherine Lynch. Despite its name, our first year and up college students work one-to-one with older adults in their own community. But they collaborated remotely with their partners during COVID, so you could have partners anywhere in the world. It's also been adapted by middle and high schools. There are videos, slides, and write-ups of all the design methods and activities, which include 5 rounds of compassing their project with their partner, 1 to identify a meaningful, feasible topic, and then 4 that we call play, prototype, pilot, and produce to create something impactful in their partners' lives. They also compass their individual, team, and class experiences at the start and when problems pop up, which of course impact their projects. Finally, they draw more societal level observations and try and experiment to have impact on aging in the community around them. For inspiration, you can show students this compass in action for global impact, well, all over the world.
I've used it in training volunteers with Core Africa.
Learn and know much better about how people think, the problems they're facing, and how we can, together with the community, devise and get the solutions.
I used the Innovators Compass for my development project, which is youth engagement in the community. I wanted the development work to be done by the youth itself in order to increase their community power.
We have distributed internet packets and phones to more than 200 students in Indonesia. I use this compass to remind me of who's at stake and how to find solutions that can work for everyone, and that the solution can actually exist within the community itself.
You have all the building blocks for better ways forward in the world around us. Just start. All free resources and videos are available at innovatorscompass.org. Please use and share them. Just credit innovatorscompass.org and share back your stories, and reach out anytime to me at ella@innovatorscompass.org.
Thank you, Ella Ben-Ur, to tell us more about Innovator Compass and why asking important questions is a key and great way to implement global impact in the classroom. Thanks again for joining this live session as part of the Global Impact Virtual Conference. From our whole ISTE and ASCD Community Leader Global team, we are so grateful for your participation today. Please continue participating in the Global Impact Virtual Conference by joining our Educators Lounge or by joining the next live session. You can find the information at our website, bit.ly 2025-Global Impact, including content from our Global Impact Conference last year. Our next presenter is Marcela Wishan and begins at the top of the hour. Thanks again for joining. See you next time.